Diane in Denmark here. I have made a couple of videos about hygge. I know you're all in love with hygge and want to know how to do it and why the Danes are so good at it. I've made a couple of videos about those. I'll put a link up there. There's a whole playlist. And I also explained that hygge is not just a winter thing. I mean, sure, it's the kind of cozy socks and getting yourself a cup of hot tea and, you know, relaxing. But all, you know, in Denmark we do hygge all year long. Anyway, I've made a video about that. But today I wanted to just talk about the Danish language. And if you've seen any of my videos where I'm taking you around Copenhagen, it's normally very dark and very cold. The videos that I've made recently, you know, we're in the middle of winter. And I think the last one that I made, it was -9 Celsius that day, which is about 19 F. And I was out there filming in the streets. But anyway, as I always say to you in these videos, the Danes have this brilliant expression of det ikke noget, der hedder dårligt vejr, det den forkert påklædning, which means, I'll just translate into English, which means there's no such thing as bad weather, just the wrong clothing. And I love that expression because it just gives you the Danes mindset that even though it's dark and cold, we can still get out there, you know, even if it's snowing and blowing a gale, as long as you're kind of wrapped up warm, you've got your earmuffs, as you saw me in town the other last week, earmuffs, hat, scarf, gloves, about 10 different layers, you can still get out and enjoy, you know, a bit of nature and get out there. Anyway, and I thought I'd talk a wee bit about, I thought I would talk a wee bit about language today. Now, I ended up in Denmark. I came to Denmark in 1998, so that's 20 years ago. And I came to Denmark because at the time, before I came to Denmark, I was working in Luxembourg. I worked in Luxembourg for 10 years. I was working for the British judge, Sir David Edward, at the European Court of Justice. And that is based in Luxembourg. And, you know, when I was working in Luxembourg, you know, when you're in that environment, I was, you know, obviously I'm an English speaker, but I was also using French, and then, you know, you kind of pick up a bit of Italian, Spanish, and it's an international situation. So, you know, you go down to the canteen for your lunch and you've got somebody speaking Greek on one side, and then you maybe have the Swedes beside you. So, you know, you're exposed to languages. And then, lo and behold, I met my Danish husband. He was working for the Danish judge. And, you know, we kind of love at first sight, blah, blah, blah. And we ended up moving to Denmark. So I lived in Luxembourg for 10 years, and then we came to Copenhagen. And as I said, that was 1998, so that's 20 years ago now. And I knew I was coming here to live permanently, you know, where we're going to settle down, have kids, which we have done. And so before I came to Denmark, I thought, okay, I know, because I had had some kind of experience of Danish language, I thought learning Danish is really difficult. I mean, it's one of the most difficult languages I've ever had to learn. You know, and if you speak French, it's very easy to add on, you know, Italian or Spanish. But Danish is really difficult. So I thought, okay, I'm going to learn it, you know, at least a bit of it before we move to Denmark. So I got a teacher, and you know, in my lunch hour, I would drive out to her house, and, you know, she would help me to learn some Danish. And the first thing that she did was give me some VHS tapes. Now, you know, we're going back a bit now, of a TV series called Matador. And that wasn't so much about learning Danish, because I'm trying to remember if it even had English subtitles, I'm not sure. But if you want to know about the history of Denmark, why things are like they are, Matador, the TV series, is fantastic. It's an iconic TV series. I won't go into it here because I could talk all day about Matador, but I'll put a link to it. Anyway, she taught me some Danish basics. And the other things that I would do is watch, we had satellite television at the time, so I would watch satellite television, like there's a program, it doesn't exist anymore, Lykkehjulet, which is like Wheel of Fortune, and those types of programs are great if you are learning a new language, because you know, you get numbers and letters, and they're talking about, oh, where do you come from, and do you have any children, you know, all the little spiel thing. And then, of course, the prizes were things like, you know, washing machines and tumble dryers. So I learned quite a lot of basic vocabulary just watching these TV things. And then I would read, you know, magazines, you know, a weekly magazine for women, because, you know, you can just kind of leaf through them and you connect the pictures with, you know, the recipes. And so anyway, I learned a lot of Danish that way. Then, of course, I arrived in Denmark, and thought I knew a bit of Danish, and you know, the pronunciation of things is completely different to how it looks as a written word. When I was living in Luxembourg, I actually spoke fluent Dutch. I used to read Dutch books, and Dutch and Danish are kind of similar on paper, but I had to learn pronunciation from scratch. So anyway, ended up in Denmark, and I thought I would just give you a couple of Danish expressions that I love, that I use all the time. And like the one, you know, there's no such thing as bad weather, just the wrong clothing. That's one that we use all the time, just to remind ourselves of why we're doing stuff. And if you've seen my pictures on Instagram, you'll know that I'm a winter bather. And you know, it is crazy. I mean, we were down there last week when it was -9 Celsius, which is like 17 F. And you know, we were just getting down off our bikes, and there was just me and my bestie, and one of the other winter bathers, he turned up and he said to us, "Den sidste idiot ikke født endnu." Which means the last idiot hasn't been born yet. And he was referring to us and to himself in that, you know, we are crazy to be doing this, but, you know, and I don't even know how you would say it in English. It's kind of like, you know, there's one fool born every minute. So, you know, we were crazy, but, you know, he was crazy too. So anyway, I love that expression. And if you've seen any of my videos, you know that I get very kind of excited about things. You know, I'm not a grey person. I wear a lot of grey clothes, but my personality is kind of black and white. You know, when I'm either up there or I'm down there. And the Danes have this expression that I mentioned the other day. When I'm excited about something, I say, "Oh, jeg kan ikke få armene ned," which means I can't get my arms down. And I love it because it is that picture of somebody running around going, "Yeah!" And that's me, you know, a lot of, you've seen me with my pom-poms, yeah, doing a go me thing. I love that expression because, you know, I actually kind of physically walk around going, yeah, if something good happens. But just that very image of somebody, they can't get their arms down because they're so excited. I love that expression. What was I going to mention to you? Oh, yes. And then, of course, one of the, I think it was in one of the Danish TV series. If you ever watch Broen or Borgen or Forbrydelsen, you know, the killing, you may, if you've got subtitles, you may be lucky enough that they actually translate the Danish well into your language. But there was one that popped up that I actually hadn't heard anybody sing, you know, on the street, but I've seen it a couple of times now on the television. And han er meget tung at danse med. And that means he is very heavy to dance with. And I thought, gosh, that's a strange expression, but it means, and it's often, I've noticed now, it's often used in politics. If you see anything in politics on the television, talking about, you know, negotiations and, oh, he's somebody who's very difficult to deal with, and I love that expression because I can just see somebody, you know, you're trying to dance with somebody on the dance floor, but he's very heavy, so you can't dance with him. It's kind of physically difficult. So han mal tung at dansemil. He's very difficult, he's very heavy to dance with. That's a great one. We have a lot of great expressions, around the weekend. And one that I love, and also it's this thing of the Danes having to constantly kind of be looking forward to something. It's like with the word hygge, we use it for everything. Oh, that's going to be hyggelig, or we're going to hygge next week. And so it's always that looking forward, that expectation. We actually say it a lot, and that kind of builds up the excitement. And Thursday in Denmark, we have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Wednesday's kind of hump day. Thursday in Denmark we call Lille Fredag, which is Little Friday. And I also love that because it feels like, okay, you're almost at Friday, not quite, but it's a kind of excuse sometimes to, we can go out for drinks on Thursday night because it's Lille Fredag, it's Little Friday, and we're kind of almost there, and so we can enjoy ourselves a wee bit and look forward. And another thing that my daughter used to say a lot when she was small, she would say to me, because my kids, they speak fluent English and Danish. My son was fluent in Danish from the beginning. I think it's because he was the first child. With the first child, you kind of make an effort, and then when the second child comes along, you're kind of so exhausted by the first one that they just get to go off and do whatever they want, and you just want to put your feet up and get some peace and quiet. Anyway, my dear son, DS18, he's 18 years old. He was speaking Danish and English from when he started speaking. And even when we were looking at books, and pointing at things, he would translate it in his head because, we had this book and it said a lighthouse. And then he said, lighthouse, and then he turns to us and says, lyshus, which is the literal translation of lighthouse. But a lighthouse in Danish is called fyrtårn, at fyrtårn. So he was already translating himself when he was 2. My daughter was opposite. She refused to speak English in the beginning. I would speak English to her and she would just answer me in Danish till she was about the age of 4. And I think it was that kind of thing of, she was at nursery and she didn't want to be different. And then, of course, we were over at my mum and dad's in Scotland, and she was playing with her wee cousins, and of course they speak English with a heavy Scottish accent. And of course she wanted to be in the game, but she had to talk. So suddenly after that weekend, she was speaking English, and on the way home in the taxi from the airport, her brother said something in Danish, and she turned around and said, I only speak English now. But anyway, she's kind of, after that, she kind of got a bit more normal, and so she speaks English and Danish. Anyway, back to the story. Yeah, when she was about 4 or 5, you know how kids are, like they're always hungry. You've got to feed kids, feed and water them every 20 minutes to keep them quiet. And it was some afternoon, and she said, and she would, she'd mix up English and Danish all the time. So you'd get half of the sentence in English, half in Danish. And she said, "Oh, Mum, I'm sulten," and that means I'm hungry. And I said, "Okay, well, I can give you, would you like a banana or a rice biscuit, something?" And she said, "No." She said, "I'm not sulten. I'm lekker sulten." And lekker sulten is a brilliant expression. It means that lekker, also like in Dutch, you have lekker, the word lekker in Dutch. Lekker in Danish means if you're referring to a person, he's kind of good looking or, tasty. For food, it means tasty. If something is, lekker, that's really tasty or, appetizing. So she wasn't hungry. She she wanted some kind of, junk food, sweets, candy. She was lekker sulten. And lekker sulten just means to be, you've got the munchies. You want to eat something, but you don't really want anything healthy. You want something that's just kind of tasty and good. And then, of course, in Danish, if you ever have the chance to get into a Danish supermarket, go and have a look, because as an English speaker, you're going to find lots of things that look quite funny. Talking about sweets, you'll maybe see scum or scum, and scum, which is spelled S-K-U-M, has got nothing to do with scum. It's actually the word for marshmallow in Danish. So if you're lekker sulten, you can have some scum. And the word that we say if something is, that's really tasty or good, we say mums, which is M-U-M-S. So it doesn't mean mums, it's mums, it's mum's cup of tea. Mums means tasty, mums. So anyway, I'm not going to speak any longer. So you know me, I like to keep my videos to around 15 minutes because we've all got other things to be getting on with. But anyway, that was just a wee chat about Danish. Let me know if you have any kind of similar expressions in your language. I would really be interested to know if you have the one about he's really heavy to dance with. And I'm not sure I've heard that in any other language. I can't think of there being an expression in French. Anyway, you can let me know. I'm going to finish my cup of tea if it hasn't gone cold. As always, may the hygge be with you. Live long and prosper, and see you very soon. Okay, bye for now.